Ask the Security Guy. I'm Holly Magnuson. This is episode number 45, pre-recorded for July 10th, 2019. And I am joined today by none other than Shawn Kohrman. Hi, Shawn.
How's it going?
It is going great. Before we take off on our topic, I want to do a service announcement, public service announcement for our APU community. This fall, hopefully by September, we will be launching our new security awareness training program. I'm super excited about it. I've been playing around with a new tool yesterday and just a lot of cool stuff. And I get to go fishing again, Shawn. I'm very excited about that.
I'm not buying you a boat.
That's just no fun. And for those of you who are kind of wondering why I'm talking about fishing, I'm referring to the PHISH fishing, not FISH. No bass, no trout, none of that good stuff. But the cool thing is, it has been, Shawn, I don't know if you realize, it's been over a year since we've had a compromised account.
That's pretty fantastic right there.
Yeah. Our community has done a great job protecting our information and not compromising their accounts. But we always want to be prepared. And as you know, better than anyone, the more we do, the more the hackers are going to do to try to get in. So it's, staying aware of what's going on. And, and as a reminder, if you do fall for my fishing trip, I don't tell your supervisor, don't tell human resources. Shawn probably won't know because he'll be too busy doing other stuff to look and see that it was you. So don't worry about that.
I do pay attention, and I might buy you lunch and give you a hard time. Who knows?
Hey, a free lunch with Shawn Kohrman to hear about all things security. I might compromise for that one. All right, enough foolishness. Shawn, what are we talking about today?
Well, we've got a few things we want to talk about today. It's been an eventful year so far. Like you said, I definitely want to put a shout out to our users and our customers. 0 compromised accounts in a year is a huge deal. When we started this a few years ago, there were almost 100 or more a month.
Yeah, it was
now 0. So congratulations to all of you for your hard work. For paying attention, for all the reporting that you've been doing. We get the tickets and the email forwards and the spam examples, and we love it.
Yeah, and I think the big thing we've been seeing since right before Christmas has been the spear phishing.
Yes.
People trying to make you think that it's your boss or a dean or a chair, when in reality it's some joker sitting who knows where trying to trick you.
And our users have done a fantastic job of spotting these.
Yes, they have. And we have had a few people who have thought that, that person's account had actually been hacked, but no, we have had no compromised accounts. It's all spoofing.
Well, and even in those cases, they did exactly the right thing. They raised the flag. They said, here, what is this thing and what do I do with it?
Right. And it's been, and we've even had a couple of people who, they got an email from a coworker say, hey, I think your account's been hacked. They just changed their password. They didn't even worry about it. They just changed their password so that they knew that their information was safe.
Yeah.
So
with that said, so there's a few topics we want to touch on today. One is an IoT vendor called Orvibo, I think it is, ORVIBO.
And as a reminder, IoT,
Internet of Things.
Okay, let's just make sure everybody, me and my.
These are really small internet-connected devices in your house. Things like smart plugs, smart switches. There's door handles that are internet-connected. All kinds of small things, even including webcams, IP webcams for security or baby monitors or those kinds of things. Orvibo makes a lot of different things, and they're all home-based, and they're convenience and definitely fall into that Internet of Things category. What happened with them is pretty interesting. But we also want to touch on Georgia's court system got hit by ransomware.
Nice.
There is there is some Miami police body cam videos showing up for sale on the dark web. That's always fun.
Yeah, that's what we want.
There is a large patch coming out for Android devices this month. So it will come out in varying times depending on your carrier. There's a new scary granny zombie game that's got some interesting aspects to it.
Scary granny zombies, is that hear you correctly?
Scary granny.
Okay.
Yeah. And then last but not least, we want to talk a little bit about BlueKey, which is a huge deal on the internet. I want to talk about how that's impacting our end users and our systems here at APU and what you can do to protect against it.
Sounds good.
So without further ado, why don't we talk about the Internet of Things? So Orvivo is a company, like I said, that makes a lot of different devices. They're convenience, they're well known. Interestingly enough, they had a database exposed to the internet, which was pretty easily compromised, that had usernames, passwords, customer information, password recovery keys, which are intended for multi-factor authentication, which should never have been public, but also a lot of log data about where these devices were actually installed. So think about an IP camera that tells your address and has your credentials associated with it, those kinds of things. Interestingly enough, the log data was inadvertently put in what's called an Elasticsearch database that is usually used for internal log analysis and log retention for detailed analysis. Usually you feed this to something like AI, artificial intelligence, or advanced business intelligence functions. Exposing it to the internet the way it was done with almost pointless credentials really raised a problem. So if you have any of these devices, it would be a really, really good time to reset your credentials and contact their customer support and verify that your information was not part of the breach. If they are doing their job, you'll get some kind of useful information from them in response. If not, hound them.
Yeah.
So next up, Georgia. So, so the Georgia court system got hit by by the Ryuk ransomware variant, and it has knocked off a section of their network. As a result of that, the Georgia court system is rescheduling court dates like crazy and scrambling to recover lost files, lost information, and those kinds of things. There is no word at this time of the extent of the damage. They have not published that, nor have they published whether or not they're paying the ransom or reverting to some form of backup.
So is this one of the typical, somebody clicked on a link in an email?
They haven't even disclosed that yet. We just know that they had a pretty massive breach, and it's having a very significant impact on their ability to process regular court proceedings.
Right.
Which is interesting because the Atlanta PD also had an incident where they got hit by a different ransomware that took out years of dash cam data and video footage that they had archived, and they lost that.
Wow.
So yeah, I think it was the SamSam ransomware. So ransomware is still alive and well. It is becoming increasingly destructive. So early variants of it were all around getting paid. Some of the more interesting variants now are purely destructive. They get in, they encrypt, you're done. They don't offer a payment method. They don't, even if they do, it may or may not work. So again, if you don't have good backups and a good recovery system, you're pretty much out of luck.
Yeah. Now, totally hypothesizing here because I'm sure don't know for sure. Do you think it's becoming more destructive because they're being paid to make it more destructive?
There is absolutely some thought to that. Any exploit out there, so an exploit meaning a way of breaking into a system, right? Once it's discovered, can be weaponized, meaning it can be packaged up and sold on the black market for someone, a bad person to use in a bad way. That's just the facts of life. So Even now, especially what you see now, and this has been going on for a long time, but it's becoming increasingly prevalent. When Microsoft or Oracle or Apple or any of the other software manufacturers out there release a patch, a security patch, the first thing that these guys do is they reverse engineer the patch to figure out what the vulnerability was, and then they write a exploit for the vulnerability.
Because there are people who will never patch.
Exactly. And we'll talk about that more when we get to BlueKey. But I mean, it's just becoming a way of life now. So the bad guys know all they have to do is wait for the patch to come out. They reverse engineer it, and then they write an exploit for it and go.
Craziness.
And if they're selling it, I mean, there's clearinghouses now for selling exploits. So there's bug bounty programs. We talked about that.
Yeah.
But there are actual clearinghouses, both quasi-legitimate, legitimate, and black market, and they pay different rates. So it depends. It depends on the threat actor, what their intentions are, because they all get paid regardless of which venue they go to, and in some cases they'll get paid more for responsible disclosure to the manufacturer or an authorized clearinghouse where these can be safely disclosed and vetted. But there are others who have an extra grind and they're going to just put it out there.
Yeah.
Or they're going to sell it to someone that sells these things to nation states for country against country hacking, which is alive and well. So it's pretty scary times. The advent of ransomware now is very different than it started out. So again, with ransomware, backups. You must have backups disconnected from your normal system. So for instance, if you have a USB key that you just keep plugged into your computer all the time, and that's where you back your stuff up to, these things will find the backups and encrypt them too.
Yeah.
So that's where tools like Carbonite or Backupify, or just having a drive that you hook up to your computer and run your backup and then disconnect it. Mm-hmm. Even things as simple as that can help protect against data loss with these major ransomware types. So yeah, it's very interesting. It's kind of curious to see why it's turning the way it's turning. With Georgia, I mean, first their court system, and first their PD, and now their court system being hit, almost seems targeted.
Yeah. It's like what big court case is on the horizon?
You gotta wonder. You really gotta wonder. So the next up,
more good news, I'm sure.
So Scary Granny Zombie Game.
Yes, Scary Granny. Yes, this is.
If you have downloaded this, and I'm sure you've already seen how it behaves, Android has a number of security features built in to prevent malware from really taking off on your device, be it your phone or an Android tablet or a Chromebook or whatever. And that's called sandboxing, where it runs the application in a way that it has no privileges and it can't talk to the rest of the system. It's kind of like putting it in a little box, and then say, okay, you can do your thing in here, and that's it. This tool, on the other hand, they've done a really, really good job of evading the sandbox tool, where they wait a few days to even fire off any of the malicious components of it, so that the system thinks it's legitimate. Things were named as system files that are normal. But one of the interesting, the funny things is they misspelled sign in. So it says sing in. So I guess if you're a singer or you enjoy that kind of thing, it may make sense. I don't know. Nobody wants to hear me sing anyway, so I don't worry about it. But that's one thing. The way it acts is after a couple days, it prompts you to buy the game for, I think, $18 to $22, depending on how much or what country you're in and what the exchange rate is. And then once you pay, then it starts a malicious phishing attack against the device itself. So you put this thing on his phone, and now it's phishing you from your phone. And
I'm just kind of. I grabbed my phone. I had to look. We've got Scary Granny mods. Scary Granny horror game. I mean,
yep.
What is up with this? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stick with my Toy Blast and.
So it is those
nice
variants. It's the Scary Granny horror mod. Is the one that you have to watch out for.
Yeah, I don't. No, I don't, because none of it's going on my phone. Yeah.
So if you see anything with Scary Granny in it, run.
There's no chance my mother-in-law would ever watch this, but I'll still keep no Scary Granny comments there too. Sorry, folks. Maybe I'll edit this out when from the live to what you guys will see. But yeah, Scary Granny, just stay away. And if you're playing the game, get counseling. I'm done.
There's that.
I'm sorry. Let's move on, Shawn, before I.
Oh my goodness. So moving on. So we've gotten that. There's a bunch of news around BlueKey, and what BlueKey is Windows has a remote control protocol, or RDP, remote desktop protocol, that's been part of it for years and years and years. So as part of that, though, there is it's a very legitimate tool. It's been used for management aspects. It's still used for management aspects. Security people like me tend to have issue with it because it tends to be buggy and have security holes like BlueKey. Who knew? Opinions vary. This is a topic that tends to put sysadmins and security professionals at odds with each other, because RDP is a very convenient way of managing a system. And it can be argued that it uses good security. In fact, it is intended to. The fault is that RDP has had a number of massive issues throughout its life. So, and when a remote desktop protocol is exposed to the internet, it's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Add that to the fact that a lot of these things never get patched, and these servers typically sit in privileged zones inside of corporate networks. This just goes from bad to worse really fast.
Yeah.
So essentially what it is it's a remote desktop protocol compromise that what it does is it gets into the server, it breaks through any authentication requirements, depending on the configuration setup, and gives you basically admin access right off the bat on the box. And from there, you can turn the box either into a compromised pivot or a jump host, if you will, to get into further stuff, or you can just take advantage of the box itself. Uses for this can be compromising the host, compromising further into the network, just using the box for crypto mining, which is pretty popular these days, and basic things like that. It's pretty bad. The reason it's bad is when this was initially found, security researchers very responsibly disclosed it and put out just enough information to make people aware, but no technical details, which was, there's some argument about how responsible it actually was, but I think given the circumstances, they did a pretty good job because they had to sound the alarm, but at the same time not give technical details about how it worked. Well, the problem is Microsoft about, I think 2 months ago, or almost 2 months ago, released a patch for this. The patch was immediately reverse engineered and an exploit was made. At the time the exploit was found, there was almost 1 million servers on the internet worldwide that were vulnerable. Now these are corporate servers, they're companies, they're institutions, it's not your average home user that's vulnerable to this. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to bring this up. Because there's so much press and play about this, it's important to understand your home computer is typically not going to be at risk for this thing. Now, if you travel, if you're in hotels and you're connecting to Starbucks Wi-Fi and those kinds of things. You want to make sure that you have all the latest Windows updates applied. Period. You want to make sure you have current antivirus installed. Period. Those two things by itself will take care of this. You also want to make sure you don't have this thing enabled. That's a little more difficult. And if you have concerns about that or questions about that, you can reach out to us and we'll send you some articles on how to check whether or not you have it turned on. Generally, most home computers and laptops do not have it enabled by default. But if you're worried about it, if you think it may be, we'll gladly send you some information to check it out. But again, if you have the most current Windows updates and you have current antivirus, you don't have an issue. Here's the problem, though. There's almost 1 million devices out on the internet that do have the issue, that aren't being patched in any kind of reasonable time frame. And now they're being pivoted to and compromised quickly to be used in further attacks of other types. So it's more of the same in some ways because, a new thing happened. Now it's being exploited. Now it's being leveraged, with unpatched servers around the world. I mean, I can tell you what my favorite country used to be for going shopping for unpatched servers. I could, but I'm not going to.
Something told me you weren't going to actually tell us.
Yeah, but and this is known. And different people have different preferences, right? But in the black hat community, it's well known where you go shopping for stuff. So and these days, the researcher ran a scan of the entire internet in less than a week. Actually, in less than 2 days to find this out. These are the kinds of tools and the power that's available now to everybody. So regardless of your intentions, these tools are available to you. So again, it's just a reminder, we have to practice good security. With ransomware, good passwords, don't click on phishing links, have good backups. With BlueKey, well, for one, why on earth would anybody ever have RDP exposed on the internet in the first place? Besides the point.
Yeah. And it goes back to something that I tell new employees, get in the habit of running your updates.
Yeah.
Don't ignore them. I encourage you, reboot your machine, shut it down, restart it at least once a week.
Yeah. And that's exactly right, because nobody wants to reboot, or they keep hitting the postpone thing for months. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, in doing that, you make yourself vulnerable. And if we're talking about APU, you're making APU vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, I will tell them, restart your computer, go to lunch.
Yeah.
And come back, and it may still take a few more minutes after the reboot to finish the installation. But if you do it once a week, it doesn't take that long.
Well, it's Patch Tuesday, so everything's going to show up on your desk on Wednesday. Just
restart that computer.
Yep. So that's the highlights for July.
Wow.
It has been an interesting month.
Yeah, it has. And there were some other things that, I've seen pop up, but I don't know if I want to talk about Chinese and cell phone companies and all that kind of good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Boy, well, there's one particular Chinese cell phone company that's really in hot water right now. And the jury's still out on how that one's going to play out.
Yeah. Well, maybe that'll be the August episode. So that is it for today. We did pre-record. So if you have questions about what we talked about today, you can email us at iso@apu.edu. Hopefully next month we'll be able to go live. We've got some new tech that I'm having a blast playing with. You may see the powered by StreamYard up in the upper corner there above Shawn's head. Yeah, very good. You got the opposite thing going. I'm still struggling with that. But again, thank you for watching. Email us at iso@apu.edu. If you get suspicious emails, go ahead and send those to spam@apu.edu, and look forward to some new tools coming out just to keep protecting us. So we'll say goodbye. Say goodbye with that hand. See,
This one? Or this one?
yeah, this one or that one?
All right.